This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
Young men are sent off to a foreign land to fight for a cause that they don't fully understand. Experiencing brutality, death, and horror is the meal that is dined on at every sitting. Yet they stand tall and do their duty, not because of an ideal, but because of their family in arms fighting by their side. Dreams of home and better times fill what little sleep is stolen in the chaos, waiting and hoping to get back to a normal life if only they can hold on a little longer. The only hearts and minds that need to be won are those soldiers that are still in the trenches. After all the blood, sweat, and tears has been shed, the wheels touch down in their beloved homeland. They were greeted with disdain and called awful names. These warriors had to face a continuing battle at home. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we sit down with John Paulus to discuss the suffering of Vietnam. John fought 2 battles, one overseas and then one back at home. Thank you so much for traveling all this way to come with us.
You're welcome.
John, it's always a pleasure to talk to people like you.
You know, I keep forgetting that Vietnam veterans are now senior citizens. I have a tough time because they were our fathers, our football coaches. That was the Vietnam era, and now, you know, they're starting to go away, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Geez, Sylvester Stallone's 75.
Yeah.
You know, the Mr. Vietnam.
Yeah, Sylvester Stallone, yep.
Before we get too far into it, let's thank our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We buy our cars from Toyota Hackensack because we don't trust anybody. So go to toyotahackensack.com. Let them find you a car. Now, John, you've traveled all this way, and our first start of every episode is to take a question from our audience. This week's question comes from Steve. It says, "What is your favorite war movie?" Usually our questions are, how much suffering can you take before you break? This one's a fun one.
What time did you take your dog for a walk today?
Right. So you have a different perspective on war movies than, say, Mike and I, because we didn't go to war. We watch them for entertainment. We watch police movies for authenticity. What's your favorite war movie?
Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah. Why so? Why is that one your favorite?
It was pretty authentic to the boot camp, to Vietnam. It was pretty authentic, except for the fact that when he committed suicide, it's almost impossible. They would take the rifles away from us and lock them up, and for him even to have a round, they make sure you had no rounds when you left the rifle range.
I mean, that's all part of Hollywood, though.
Yeah,
you know, that's what Kevin was saying. Like with authentic movies, I mean, we could watch a cop movie, a police movie, and pick it apart, right? From point A to point Z.
But it was amazing because everything else other than that was right on.
So the one part in that movie, the suicide scene that you're talking about right after boot camp, there was about 15 opportunities for Joker to go and seize that weapon from Private Pyle, and he never did it. He just stood there and looked at him, even though he had an unloaded weapon sitting at his feet.
Yeah.
So, you know, but again, it's a great movie.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think?
You know, I think for action purposes, which is probably the most overproduced movie, I think was Rambo.
The first Rambo won Oscars. Like it wasn't a typical Sylvester Stallone movie.
But how realistic was that movie?
I don't think it was realistic at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, good.
You know, I mean, to us, non-military guys, never served a day in the military.
Yeah.
To me, that was a great movie.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know any better.
It was important for this reason because it brought to light some of the struggles that the veterans had coming home. The original one. The second one, you're under fire and you're sleeping with your hot co-star. But But
that happened in Vietnam a lot too. We'll get into that later, though.
I'm sure. For me, I'm a big fan of Lone Survivor because I'm a big fan of Marcus Luttrell.
Yeah.
You know, in Operation Red Wings in 2005, they're up on that mountain, they're hunting a guy, and they're in a bad place. They're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
But the thing that I always loved about it, and the thing that always brings a tear to my eye is you got these 4 guys up on a mountain that will die for each other.
Right.
They're brothers. They're true brothers in arms, and that's what always struck home to me. And the will to live too is another thing.
If I die,
oh God, this is so.
But I did like Mel Gibson too. That movie he made with
We Were Soldiers.
We Were Soldiers.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That guy didn't die too long ago either. I saw some stuff. But on that, getting back to Lone Survivor, there's one line that always makes me choke up, and it's Matthew Axelson, and he says, "If I die here on this mountain, tell my wife at least I died with my brothers." And that it kills me. Like I have to stop the movie every time because I don't want my 12-year-old to see me crying. He loves that movie as well. And now my 12-year-old wants to go into the military, and I'm just there's part of me that's proud, and there's part of me that's not.
See, I always say I don't want to say my favorite military story. My most touching military story has got to be Pat Tillman.
Pat Tillman, that's a great. Pat Tillman, up everything.
He gave up everything. Gave up an NFL career.
Oh yeah.
To go fight for the country, and then he wound up getting killed by friendly fire.
Yep.
And I mean, I still wear. I'm a member of the Pat Tillman Foundation. I go in his. He's got 5K runs or 4.2 mile runs, and I go every year. I got plenty of Pat Tillman. I bought Pat Tillman jerseys and everything. I mean, that to me is a true American hero.
I agree.
So that's what we all should do. We all should sacrifice everything for a country that I think has
sacrificed for us.
Right. So John. This is always the most loaded question that we ask everybody, and that's just tell us about yourself.
Well, let's see. I grew up watching John Wayne movies. I always had a fascination about the Marines.
Now, do you think all cowboys who were cowboys and watched John Wayne movies going, yeah, that's full of shit. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Well,
what's your favorite John Wayne movie?
John Wayne. Yeah. But let's see, when I received my draft notice, rather than go into the Army, I went into the Marines because I believed in it. I was very proud of the Marines. And I think that if I had to do it over again, I would do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of the draft dodgers and the culture of the 60s. It was one of those wars, again, looking back on it, I wasn't there. One of those wars that seemed to be the unpopular war because the media was involved, and the media can shape people's minds. When you got your draft notice, was it like a feeling of dread?
At the time, I was very patriotic, and I believed that we all have to do our duty for our country, and the reason was that we're going over there to stop communism so it doesn't spread to the United States. That was the reason. That's why, and I believed that until I guess I started seeing all the called hippies, demonstrators back home, and what they were saying.
Hanoi Jane.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hanoi Jane. Right. So that changed. Didn't change my mind, but it was just sad to see that. Yeah.
So Hanoi Jane, do you know the true story behind Jane Fonda's involvement? The true story, because I read the book called Night, and it's about prisoner of wars in Vietnam. Yeah. So when she went over there to check the conditions of the prisoner of war camp, one of the guys handed her a piece of paper with his social security number.
That's what I heard.
Right. And what she did was abhorrent, and she gave the piece of paper to the commanding officer of the POW camp.
That's the way I hear it. Yeah.
And because of that, that guy got severely punished.
Yeah. Well, how about when she had put the helmet on and she sat in the gun turret of the North Vietnamese army and pretended she was shooting? Right.
Right. Against your own people. Yeah. Against your own people. That's so.
And here's a woman who makes millions of American dollars.
Yeah.
Because we pay for stuff that she puts out there.
Now, you went to, what year did you enlist? Or how old were you when you enlisted?
Just shy of 19.
Just shy of 19. And so you went to high school with a lot of people who were going.
Yeah.
What year was this, by the way?
I got enlisted in 66.
66. So right out of high school, because you probably graduated in 65, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So you saw some people going.
Yep.
You saw some people starting to get drafted.
A lot of my friends.
What was the common talk amongst the
common feeling around everybody?
They were like, there was the people that didn't want to go, and they would say like, well, actually, I mean, that uniform, that Marine Corps uniform, really inspired a lot of people. They were proud that they knew me, that I went in there, and they didn't say nothing bad about it. I came home and I went to the high school with my uniform on.
Yeah, those dress blues are beauties.
It had to be a proud moment too. I always see that like when Marines come walking into a high school. It's like
but I didn't have my dress blues. I had my dress greens.
Okay,
and they're sharp too.
Yeah, they're really nice looking.
And I would stand at the top of the school and talk to all the teachers coming up to me and all the students coming up to me. But a lot of my friends in 64 and 65 went into the Marines, so that also kind of motivated me too.
I'm going to tell you, Mike, I'm going to show you how you can show who a true Marine is. When's the Marine Corps birthday?
November 10th.
Every Marine, they must really beat that into you in boot camp.
Well, I think really, I mean, the fact that I'm involved on the Marine Corps League and the VFW, I mean, Jay, our Hunter, our commander, he's a Marine too. So we celebrate November 10th there.
Yeah.
And I also, I used to live in Maryland, in Ocean City, and they're big on the Marine Corps birthday over there also.
Well, I used to hang around an old Marine. That's why I know the birthday. And every November 10th, I'd text him, "Hey, happy birthday, happy birthday."
Did the same thing.
And you know that it was a big thing. He was somebody who was very dear to me, and I know it was a sense of pride. He always identified he was a Marine, and I think he was a Marine before he identified as a Marine before a father.
I was gonna say Marines care more about November 10th than their own birthday.
Oh, 100%.
Matter of fact, we're going to Sun Tavern in Philadelphia this November 10th with a busload of like 14 of us. And we just go, we hang out. There's like 3,000 Marines walking around, you know.
Oh, you got to go to, so one of our sponsors is Grand Saloon in Clifton. If you go to 940 Van Houten Avenue, you got to bring all your Marines there. They're so pro first responder, veteran. Nick over there takes care of everybody.
Pro-American.
Yeah, they're pro-American, and they got great food. And they really do. They have great food. Although, Nick, Spam on the menu. That's my own personal little crusade. Try to get Spam on his menu.
Okay, now we're talking about Spam. How much Spam did you eat over in Vietnam?
Well, we didn't have any Spam over there, but my mom cooked a lot of Spam when I was a kid.
Oh, my grandfather made Spamulate. Spam and eggs.
Spam and eggs.
So good. And I got my kids drinking, eating
it's
Spam.
coming back, right?
It's expensive now.
Yeah.
It's $5 a can.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we bought it because it was
Did you ever
cheap.
see like Monty Python, the Holy Grail? Spam, 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 spam.
So you enlist, and then you go to boot camp. You're this idealistic kid going into this world where you think, I'm going to be a soldier, I'm going to be a warrior, I'm going to kill.
I'm going to be a Marine.
I'm going to be a Marine. Now you get into boot camp. What was your wake up call when you get into boot camp?
When the DI got on the bus, we pulled into Paris Island, and when that DI got on that bus, man,
This ain't like the movies.
yeah, he's yelling. Can I say?
Absolutely.
Oh, you can say whatever you want.
He's yelling, "Asshole of belly buttons! Asshole of belly buttons! Don't you eyeball me, boy! Don't you eyeball me!" And we were like, "Well, most all the guys like, you one thing they don't want is to look in their face. You know, you got to look above them."
So what the drill instructor in my police academy was a Force Recon Marine, and he trained us modified, obviously, but he always did. You know, it was the point. They never point. It was that, because apparently these days in the Marines you can't point at anybody.
Yeah.
So you do this, and he was serious as a heart attack. He was about 5'2", scariest individual I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Scary. So first day of police academy, I can understand that, because he's got his clipboard and he goes, "Donaldson, you don't belong here." And he looks me right in the eye. I'm like, all right, I guess I don't belong here. So I started turning my car around. He goes, "Park your car," and then get in a lean and rest. So that DI starts yelling at you. What's next?
Well, they get us off the bus, and we got to stand in these yellow feet are painted there. So they get us an order. I guess get your order in order at that time, and they march us right in. I think the first thing they did was start cutting our hair.
just like Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, they shave it all out.
Just like stripes.
I'll take a little bit off the top.
My name's Dewey Oxberger. My friends call me Ox.
This is like an 8-week program. I figure I could lose some weight. Did you have somebody in your bus put you in the lean and rest almost immediately? I guarantee it. Somebody screwed up. Somebody was fooling around. Somebody did something to put you in the lean and rest position, which for those people who don't know is the push-up position.
Yeah. I mean, if you find somebody goofing off or something like that right off the bat, start doing some push-ups.
Yeah.
And pretty much all they did was like scream at you. You know, they were screaming at these guys. They made them sound like real a-holes, you know, screaming. You know. But I think the really once that started as far as separating people who goofed up was in the barracks. You know, that's when they really got you going. You know, exercise the heck out of you. And if you, I had a friend that was went in with me from South Plainfield High School, and he kept smirking at the DI. And the DI said, "Get your face off me, boy." And he said, "And wipe that smirk off now." And he'd take the smirk off his face. As soon as the DI turned around, this guy was always, that's his personality. He always had a smirk on his face. I knew him for a couple of years. So as soon as the DI turned around, he had that smirk on his face again. The DI runs up to him and says, "Boy, do you love me or something?" You know?
You think I'm pretty?
Yeah. And so he says, "Boy, you're going to motivation platoon." Now, that's where you don't want to go, motivation platoon. I don't know if you ever heard about that one.
No, that one I've never heard of.
Yeah, motivation platoon is, they would march us by motivation platoon just to scare us, you know. Motivation platoon, they had this big pile of sand on one side, and they put this silver helmet on you, and they give you a bucket. And you had to empty that pile of sand and take it over to the other end of the field and dump it there. And then once that's done, they did. And meantime, they had a DI there and a couple of DIs, and they had their little billy clubs, you know, and they were making you move, man. You couldn't stop. They would run back. So that was part of motivation, you know. And we all said, "Hey, I don't want to go to motivation." So, I mean, you looked straight ahead. You didn't look at that DI.
Now, they could hit you at this point, too.
Yeah. They, when we were going through, if you did something wrong, they'd come up and you'd punch you in the belly, you know. They'd punch you in the chest. They would.
It wasn't the kindler, gentler Marine Corps.
No.
Yeah, they were tough. They were tough on us. I mean, and you've seen a lot of that. You know, they one guy smacked a guy in the head with his Smokey Bear helmet and a Smokey Bear hat, and it started bleeding. But they, you know, they weren't supposed to hit you, so it started bleeding. And he really got some napkins right. We stuck it on him. He's looking around, make sure there's no officers around, because he probably would have got busted for doing that.
But those drills, from what I understand, were the most squared away individuals on the planet. Uniforms fit perfectly, shoes perfectly shine.
Man.
And from what
that was someone you almost looked up to, though. That's someone who you wanted to emulate. You know, that's why they put those people in that position.
Was Sergeant Brown. I remember his name to this day, right? And he had a scar right down his cheek here to his lip. And he talked through the sides of his lip like this. And he'd say, "Hey, you fucking maggots, man," you know. And he could right to your face, you know. And he was built he looked like a bulldog. He was short and looked like a bulldog. You didn't mess with that guy at all.
you get scared of these people, but at the same time, it's so serious. Did you ever crack a smile or fight off the urge to laugh?
There's certain things they say, and we saw it in the police academy. There's certain things they say where you almost chuckle at it.
My DI, again, the Force Recon Marine, serious as a heart attack, looked like Scott Farkas from a Christmas Story, used to stutter. Right? He would stutter. He would come up, and he was so short. He'd look straight up at you, and he'd try not to laugh.
Yeah.
Try not to laugh.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah, that's right.
And guess what? He's trying to make you laugh. Like I figured it out after the police academy or towards the end. That's all part of the game. Break you down as individuals, build you back up as one. And
you know, I'm very proud of it. We did so well in boot camp that there's squads, 4 squads, and if you stay a squad leader the whole time and you do a good job, at the end of boot camp, you're awarded a PFC stripe. So I was one of the squad leaders to get a PFC stripe out of boot camp. Didn't get my dress blues because that guy, he was right on, man. He was perfect. Never missed a step, so he stayed the whole time. But I was proud that I got that out of boot camp.
now, are there any other experiences in boot camp that are noteworthy? Now, I'm sure you probably went through how many weeks?
So that was 8 weeks for us.
8 weeks.
And then we went to advanced infantry training after that for another 4 weeks.
8 weeks to get somebody ready to go to war.
To go to war.
Now, did you ever look back now in hindsight and understand from a drill instructor's perspective why they were so tough? They had an abbreviated time to get you ready to go fight. Did that ever click in you?
No, but they originally had 12 weeks training, but with the Vietnam War, they wanted us out quick and over there in Vietnam. So
did you ever run into your old DI?
No. After that, I never ran into him. No.
Was he a Mustang?
No, he was not.
No. The Mustang, from what I understand, the Mustangs are the officers who worked their way up from enlisted.
Yeah, no.
And
they were enlisted, yeah.
Yeah, they're enlisted. And they were always a little bit more respected, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise, where'd they go? Quantico?
Yeah, Quantico.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I spent a lot of time with an old-time Marine who fought in the Dominican Republic in '65.
Yeah.
So you
I
get.
went on vacation in the Dominican Republic a couple times.
I don't think this was Punta Cana.
No.
where they were. But you survived boot camp, and you probably think this is just a huge victory. How many guys were in your graduating class?
80.
80.
But you know, it's amazing though. You get through boot camp and you're like, we're done. That's just the start of it for you.
Yeah.
It's it's like you graduate high school, and you think, oh, I'm done. Then college is next. But now you graduate boot camp. The next thing is infantry training.
No, the first thing is your celebration because you get what 3-4 days leave.
Well, my parents came up.
So did they at least bring you a celebratory cigar?
No.
We had to give you because another one of our sponsors is Frontline Cigars. So you do a Frontline cigar. Actually, if you go to frontlinecigars.com, put in TSP, you get a 15% discount. But
TSP
you got to celebrate. TSP. That's what I said.
TSP 20, is it?
No, TSP 20 is Popple.
Oh, Popple,
which is the other.
All right.
I believe they gave us time with the family.
Yeah.
And we went out for dinner on base.
Totally changed probably from when your parents saw you last.
Yeah. And I was straight up and down,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they had to leave because I didn't get my leave yet. But then right after we graduated, we got 30 days leave, and then we had to come back to I think the advanced infantry training after that.
And how long until of your 80? How many actually went?
I'm not positive about that. Whether we went from boot camp to advanced infantry training and then a leave, it could be that way too.
It was 50 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
I don't expect you to remember that.
Yeah.
Barely remember 50 minutes ago, never mind 50 years ago.
Yeah.
How many of your 80 graduates in your boot camp got shipped off to Vietnam? Do you think it was all of them, or some of them had to stay stateside?
Yeah. I would say probably 75%.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I only know a few people I talked to who said that they, if you get an MOS that's that like an office pogue, and they need you in Camp Lejeune, that's where you stay. Right. And it's not, it's not that they didn't want it. I talked to these guys today. Go, I wish I could have went to Vietnam. I volunteered, but they wouldn't let me. Because it's a job they got to do.
Mm. Now, do you look on those people who didn't go over there that I know there's probably a lot of self-guilt in them, but how do you view them?
I view it that, hey, a government asks you to do a certain job, and that's what you're told to do. If I had a job and I wasn't told to go to Vietnam, that's what you got to do. I mean, you can volunteer, and if they send you, great. If not, then, they don't send you.
I mean, it's got to be a weird feeling. Whether I don't know if it's a sense of relief.
You don't join the military to be a typist.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You're going through this boot camp, gearing up to go to war, and all of a sudden, it's like I said, when I graduated the police academy, I was full of piss and vinegar. I was ready to go out on the street.
Yeah.
I got put in the courts.
Yeah, see? Yeah.
Sitting there, all rise.
That is why I never applied for the sheriff's department because I didn't want
But
to be
you're
in the
right, though. The guys that didn't go over came back and said, I wish I had gone, you know?
And what do you tell them?
I say, hey, you did what you had to do, and that was your job, and you served your country.
But going over there, do you say, no, you don't wish you were over there?
Yeah, I mean, I say, no, you didn't miss nothing, man. It was I'm lucky I came home.
It wasn't a vacation.
No.
So you go through all your advanced infantry training. Now it's time to fly out. And I'm a big fan of the movie Hair or the play Hair. And I see them marching on to the DC-10, and they're about to fly off to Vietnam, and they're marching and stuff. Kids are crying. Everybody's scared shitless. How many of the people just see them shaking?
Everywhere. I was shaking.
Yeah.
I mean, we're jumping a little bit because just before I went to Vietnam, they put me on a med cruise. And a med cruise is Marine infantry. There was 800 of us below a troop transport ship, and we floated around in the med. And we would do maneuvers on all the islands like Sicily, Sardinia, Crete. We do maneuvers, training for Vietnam. And that was a 6-month thing. Plus, they gave us good leave. Then after that, we came on the way home. My lieutenant came down, a very, very gung-ho lieutenant, and he yells out, Paulus, I know you're in that head. The head was the bathroom. He says, and I know you're going to volunteer for Vietnam. And I said, yes, sir. So from that point on, now you can go take it.
So you get on that transport.
Well,
Explain what's going on in your gut.
It was I flew
First class, probably, right?
Yeah, commercial
put them
airline.
on a nice.
Was a 737. We had 4 very pretty stewardesses that, all the guys were kidding with them, and they were kidding with us, But they can see we were nervous. They're trying to make us calm, And when we pull into Da Nang with this commercial airline, and they said, get off the airline first fast because they're still taking incoming rounds, and we don't know, when it's going to happen. So we got to drop these off and get out of here.
Imagine those airline stewardesses.
And
imagine
the pilots.
Yeah, imagine them. You are, you're probably flying 30, 40% to their death.
Yeah.
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 Think about for a second. They may not be fighting,
Yeah.
but they're bringing people to the battle.
Yeah.
The stress.
They're part of the war.
The stress of those folks.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Those poor women are looking you in the face saying, am I ever going to see you back?
Am I going to see you on the flight back home?
Well, it's funny you said that because, when I used to get on the C-46, the helicopters to take us out to our mountaintops and drop us off, and, a lot of noise and shaking, and you got 9 Marines on one side, 9 Marines on the other side, And I'm looking at the Marines and I said to myself, I wonder how many of my friends are not going to come back, from this operation.
Right.
Yeah.
Did it cause you to get distance with some people who you were in country with?
Or did it cause more of a bond?
No, it was more of a bond. But remember in Vietnam they rotated us. So in other words, when I was getting there, 3 guys be leaving, and more guys be coming in. So it wasn't like World War II where you were with those guys the whole time. We were shifting different people all the time.
Right.
And you got to know people. I had a bond with. Matter of fact, one of the guys I was with in Vietnam joined the VFW in Glen Gardner, and I'm good friends with him.
Same home of the very famous Bob
Gibson.
Yeah,
the one that
home of Bob Gibson. That's right.
If you go back to our episode with Bob Gibson in World War II, actually suffering a D-Day, you'll find out exactly how we met and how we came to know you. But you get in country, you step off the plane. Aside from the incoming rounds, what do you see? What's your feelings about what's going on?
I see people walking around with bandages, blood, coming out of the bandages. Take us into the hangar, and they said you're going to be just a couple minutes. People walking by on stretchers, wheeling around with stretchers. You get nervous. You see all that. You're coming right from the States. It's like, whew, what's going on?
Now, when you got off of that plane, did you feel you were well prepared, or did you feel like, holy shit, what am I getting myself into, or both?
What do I get myself into? But I said to myself as a Marine, I said, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the best I can.
Reality hits you hard sometimes.
Yeah, that's what it was, reality,
Yeah.
And you could be as excited as you want to go, but once you step off that plane, that excitement just turns to sheer terror.
Once you see these guys going on, and meantime, rockets and mortars are being dropped in on the airport, right? And you hear all this, and we're in a hangar here, boom, boom, shaking, It's like,
Wow, you went right into the fire.
Well, not yet. So they said they.
That's the way. Time out.
There's mortars going off and there's rockets. We're not in the fire yet.
Incoming rounds, mortars going off, and you're not yet in the fire.
Not the real deal, but this was, real deal is when you get out in the boonies or in the jungle there,
So you talk about Full Metal Jacket, and everybody thinks Vietnam was only fought in the jungle, especially being 50 years removed from it. There were cities in there too that you went in and cleared, correct?
City,
or towns, let's say.
No, see, my unit was stationed up in the hills mostly, along the DMZ, like Quezon,
the demilitarized zone.
We were up high there, and that was like they would drop us off on a hilltop, and we would all around us jungles, real thick stuff. As you see my picture there that I brought with those bananas. I had bananas there.
We're going to have Drew put that up on the screen as you're talking about it.
And you can see how thick the jungle is, So,
what was it like trudging through that stuff?
Hard, very hard.
I'm sure.
Because we had a lot of rain, and the jungle grass get real slippery, and it gets sharp, and you just hit it and it gives you a cut, like
sawgrass. Yeah. If you go against the grain, it'll cut you. If you go with the grain, it's nice and smooth.
Yeah.
And they're like the paper cuts too. They're like
paper
a pain in the ass things. They hurt like hell.
Yeah. And of course, you get dirty, it gets infected, you know? So, I mean, I'll give you an instance. When I first got there, we were carrying a 3.5 rocket and the launcher. And we were, every one squad was required to carry one of the rounds, which was about I guess maybe 1.5 feet long, big, pretty big. So we'd have to get down the bottom of these hills, and you couldn't get down the bottom of the hills holding this because it was so much grass and jungle stuff, and it was slippery. And you would have to pass the round down to the guy down at the bottom, slide it down, and then you slid down yourself after that.
Forrest Gump wasn't with you, was he?
I'm sorry?
Forrest Gump wasn't with you, was he?
No.
No, okay. I just want to make sure. Because if you found him, you just stick near him because he's lucky.
Yeah.
Now, when was your first taste? If that wasn't the fire getting off the plane, what was your taste of real battle, like real Vietnam battle?
I got to Vietnam in like November 20th, but
of what year?
Of 67.
Okay,
67, and
10 days after the Marine Corps birthday.
Yeah, yeah, and that really didn't happen until like December 6th. We called it, I think it was Operation Kentucky. It was called, and it was dark, and raining, and had dug our foxholes at the top of the perimeter, and heavy NVA attacked us, and that's when I received my Chi-Com belt.
So take that out of there. This is a first for the Suffering Podcast. We actually have a grenade in studio that used to belong to a North Vietnamese NVA officer. Show us what that is, John. Now, it's
a belt buckle.
So
cartridge belt, they call it, right? Belt buckle.
My first question was, is it inert?
Is it live?
Is it live?
No, it's not live. No.
That's an amazing piece. Something.
And that's a piece of history right there.
Yeah, that is. That's a really amazing thing.
It's got the Chinese writings on it.
Is that where they got all their munitions from?
Yeah.
China?
And a lot of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so what you're holding right there is from a deceased officer. Now that officer, I don't even want to know whether you did it or one of your friends did it, whatever you did. When you saw him there, when he died, was there any remorse at all?
There was, but there was so much action going on. You're kind of like happy it wasn't you and happy it wasn't your close friend. But some of my buddies did get KIAs, but you were just lucky it wasn't you. And so I didn't have any feelings for him.
Now, in looking in retrospect, two soldiers fighting on opposite sides of the battle, how do you view him now, 50 some odd years later?
Dead.
Yeah. I see this with Gettysburg. So you had the soldiers from each side of Gettysburg. Yeah. They would meet on the battlefield, shake hands.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Well, they were Americans. They were brothers. Big difference,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to work through that in my head.
Yeah.
Do you bear any or harbor any bad feelings towards those people who fought against, or is it there some modicum of respect?
Well, I had a trip awarded to go back to Vietnam, all expenses paid, and I didn't go. I mean, I've done it, I've seen it, and I heard that they try to indoctrinate the Americans coming over about they won this and they won that, and they got the plaques up in their names and all that. So I didn't want to go see that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
You go over there and call bullshit on it.
Yeah.
Well, the war's been over for so long that I'm always wondering about that. Soldiers fighting on opposite sides. How do you view each other as time moves on? Is there some respect involved? Hey, you did your thing, I did your thing. We fought for what we believed in. You fought for what you believed in. You chewed some of the same dirt. And I'm wondering about that.
Well, there was a Vietnamese family down in, I guess, just before Atlantic City, and they invited all the veterans, and they bought a monument, and they placed it in the marble monument, placed it in the local park, and all these Vietnamese soldiers that were on the Vietnamese army and women were all in full dress, and they gave all the Americans us total respect. So I mean, it's come together. You can see that they're very appreciative of what we did for them, and now they come back and they give you so much respect. I mean, I don't have any hard feelings. That's the South Vietnamese. That was the good guys.
I was going to say there was probably no kumbaya shake hand moments, but obviously that's kind of like a kumbaya shake hand moment.
Probably looked at him a little side-eyed.
Yeah. Well, those guys over there, they were known to run. They didn't stay when they had to stay. So that's something I have hard feelings about that.
Yeah, you don't run away from somebody who's in danger.
They were supposed to have our left side or right side, and when you needed them there, they weren't there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know that feeling all too well.
And we talk about it quite often.
Yes. And it was from a lieutenant.
Yes.
Yes.
Here we go.
No, Mike was actually, from what I understand, I never worked with Mike, but Mike was a good lieutenant. There was some of those out there. So talk to us about some of the worst battles, the worst of the worst.
I guess that Kentucky was bad. And then we did this.
How many did you lose in Kentucky, Operation Kentucky?
Well, that one I was talking about, that mountaintop where it got broke through, I think there was 4 KIAs, as opposed to maybe 200 of the opposite people, the NVA.
Okay.
Yeah. But probably the worst that was I was in this Pegasus battles. They sent us into the hills of Vietnam. 880, Hill 881, 862.
Just to clear the area.
Right, because they had a lot of pressure, NVA with a lot of pressure on Khe Sanh. And they wanted us to go in there and break up as much as we could. So we spent a lot of time in those hills, search and destroy. And it was, you take 2 or 3, 4 or 5, you never knew how bad the firefight's going to be. But
what was it like the first time you fired your weapon in anger? Or in battle, let's say, not in so much anger.
Well, you're very nervous before it happens, And then once you let go a few rounds, and you realize that, you got to stop these guys.
Now you got to do what you got to do. It's either you or him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You mind if I take a look at that grenade? I just want to put this on full display. Look at this. This is something. 1567Z.
Yep.
That's where it was taken from.
Yep.
That right there is a reminder of. Actually, I want to move that a little closer away from me, just in case.
Just in case it's not inert.
No.
That right there is a reminder of. Now this thing explodes, and it's probably filled with all sorts of garbage in here too.
Yeah, metal.
Probably like ball bearings and stuff like that.
This isn't going to take out a platoon, or a fire team, but it might blow your leg off.
It's going to cause some damage.
Yeah,
It would hurt somebody in the foxhole.
Absolutely.
Exactly. That's crazy. And so the Pegasus missions. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I had this. I've been eyeing this thing up. I had to see it.
Yeah, that's they called it the Operation Pegasus, and we went from hill to hill. It's just to keep the NVA from approaching Khe Sanh, and we did what we could. But what really stopped them approaching Khe Sanh is, they had the B-29 bombers and the jets with the napalm hit those hills like crazy, So that killed a lot of them over there, and that softened it up where they backed off after that.
There is a question though that is just boring a hole in my soul. What exactly does napalm smell like in the morning?
Sulfur.
Sulfur.
According to Robert Duvall, he loves it. That's all I know.
Yeah.
He puts it on his eggs in the morning.
But it does have a very distinct smell to it, right?
Yeah.
And when that's dropped, I imagine it lights up everything.
The heat is you feel the heat miles away, a mile away. That's very hot.
And they don't even know how many people that kill.
Yeah, no kidding.
No.
It's like Agent Orange.
Well, Agent Orange, that was the to get rid of the bugs, correct?
No, that was to kill the foliage so that we could see where the NVA's holes were at.
Oh.
So we can operate better.
Now, did your group of guys, what was it called? Was it a fire team? Was it?
Well, you have a fire team, and you have a squad, and a platoon.
Does everybody have their own, say, quote unquote, tunnel rat to go in there?
No, it was just like if we ran into a tunnel, the officer would ask for a volunteer.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was a volunteer tunnel rat.
One of the most dangerous men I ever met in my life was a Vietnam tunnel rat. His name was Bobby Casper. He was the most unassuming man I've ever seen in my life. 5'6", 5'7". He was a master.
Stop short shaming.
He was a master at Filipino knife fighting, whatever that particular martial art is called. But this guy, and the reason I know him is he used to work with me when I was boxing. He used to work with me on my footwork and stuff. But one of the most dangerous men ever, because he could work an angle on you. And I'm 6'3", 6'4". He's 5'6", 5'7". And if I threw a punch at him, he'd be behind me with his knee in my calf and have me screaming.
Yeah.
But if you ever talk to the man, he smiles, soft-spoken, never raised his voice. And I know from people who have gotten him to talk, some of the stuff he did was frightening, was absolutely frightening.
Yeah.
Those guys, they were a special breed of man. Anybody that volunteered to go into a tunnel.
I never volunteered for that job.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Some people were voluntold.
Yeah. Like you were voluntold to go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
What was the worst battle? The worst?
Well, probably LZ Loon was the worst my company was in.
LZ Loon?
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
It was 3 days, June 4th, 5th, and 6th. And we went in there just to give support. They were putting artillery on the hills because the NVA was bombing us from Laos, hitting our positions from Laos. And so we were supposed to get some artillery in there to knock some of that stuff out. And on the 5th day is when we noticed that there was a lot of NVA all around us. So they attacked us, and the captain, his name's Captain Negron, he couldn't get the coordinates on them. Nobody can get coordinates exactly where they're at. So
you just see flashes coming.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
I mean, but so they broke into their lines that day also on the 5th, 5th, and he passed the word, everybody get down on your holes, your foxholes, and he called over artillery that would burst right above our holes. And that's really what saved the day because it killed the NVA, backed them off.
The first friend who you were close with that you lost, what did that feel like?
It's you're lucky it's not you. I feel it's I feel real bad for my buddy, but could have been me too.
Yeah.
I had a.
Did you feel any sort of obligation to get a word back to his family or anything like that?
So fast, everything was going on. You didn't get. You moved, kept moving. So.
You still had a job to do.
Yeah. I'll give you an instant. I was coming in on a helicopter, a C-46, and they ambushed us. And the pilot said, we're going to be landing in a hot zone. And he said, he couldn't land. He says, you got to get out. Everybody jump out now. Now get out now. And as I was getting out, I was like it was like 18 Marines there. I was like the 5th Marine out. And I just happened to look back like that, and I saw the NVA pop up with an RPG round right into the cockpit. Yeah. And it started to explode. The helicopter started to explode. And as I jumped off, I remember a piece of shrapnel about as big as a wheel went flying right past my ears. And I tripped over another Marine. I grabbed him by his strap, and I started to run. I know where I was running to, but I mean, we're shooting at us with 60 caliber machine guns. They're big rounds, man.
Yeah.
They hit. It's like, poof, poof, poof. And and they were dropping mortars on us too, because they were all the hills around us. We landed on one hill. They were all around us. So I grabbed it by the strap, and next thing I knew, I was rolling into a big hole, and I didn't realize at first what it was. Then I realized it was a B-52 bomb crater, that blew out that big hole. And it wasn't for that bomb crater, I'd be dead today.
It was the other Marine.
Yeah, the other Marine got in the back.
He was deceased.
He rolled down on me on the back. Yeah, got KIA. Yeah, it's killed in action. But so I picked my head up. Every time I picked my head up, that bastard he wanted me, and he was like, choom, 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 choom. And then the shrapnel's flying, and the shrapnel blows, so hot. And I tell you, I kept my face down. It was mud down the bottom. I put my face right in that mud.
Any chance that you had the idea in your mind and said, well, this is it?
Yeah.
This is it.
Oh, yeah. I sure was.
What was your thoughts?
Say a prayer and hope for the best.
Yeah. I was leery about, when they said it's a hot zone, everybody off, right then and there. Holy shit, here we go, But when I was down that bottom of the hole, I tell you, I just couldn't get low enough. And I felt bad for the guy above me, on me, but I didn't know who he was or never to this day, because what happened is we grouped, and they called in artillery on all the hills around and napalm, and that got them off and quieted up. And we regrouped, and we moved to the next hilltop, and we dug our perimeter, foxholes around our perimeter, and we sat in for the night then.
Now, this sounds awful. It really does. It sounds awful, but I'm sure.
Coming from you, I expect it, though.
What's that?
I said, coming from you, I expect it, though. But go ahead.
No, I said this experience sounds awful.
I thought you said what you were going to say sounds awful.
God, so inappropriate. So inappropriate.
This is one of my nightmares I have all the time. You know, comes back, flashbacks. You know.
Absolutely, I could imagine.
But there were, I'm sure, because you're with your brothers, I'm sure it wasn't all rounds over the head. I'm sure you laughed because you have to. You just saw some really serious stuff, so I'm sure there was some good times you had with the people around you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we you know, we were in land in the area that I don't think was ever there. We found this rock formation that was hollowed out from years of the water coming down, and we put sentries around, and we all got naked, went in, and we were having a blast. We're like at the beach, you know. Yeah. You
had a wild hogs moment in Vietnam.
I was gonna say, is that like one? I mean, you're talking about all these terrible moments. Is that one of your funniest moments there?
Let me see. One of my funniest moments would be.
I'm not sure I'd skinny dip in Vietnam. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. You Marines are a special breed of people.
This was clean. It was clean, pristine. You know, we were in some bad waters and a lot of leeches and stuff, but this was a clean area. It was really nice. What was that question again?
The funniest thing that happened to you there.
I think,
and like Kevin said, there was a lot of deep, dark stuff. I think the funniest was that picture I brought in with those bananas. Yeah. You know, I cut them off. I was like, you know, I was fascinated. Wow, bananas, man. You know, they're like little guys, you know. So they said, well, if you put them on your backpack, they'll turn yellow and they'll be good to eat. So I put them on my backpack, and I walked on them for 2 days. When I sat down that night, we dug our foxhole on the perimeter. And I just started eating my sea rations. I said, I'm gonna have some bananas now. As soon as I opened my first banana, I'm not kidding you, I don't know where the hell they came from. Hundreds of monkeys. Hundreds of monkeys. And they were vicious, man. They wanted my bananas. Only way I got out of it is I had to throw my bananas out to them.
What was worse, NVA or monkeys?
I was going to say, you had the NVAs coming from one side, monkeys coming from the other.
Yeah.
You know, because the reason I asked that is when you go through those critical incidents, the thing that gets you through it the quickest is laughter. Because as police officers, we laughed more than I can tell you. But we also did some really serious things.
Yeah.
And I've heard from other people who've been involved in war the same thing, that downtime is when the good times happen. And that's just as memorable as the horror.
Yeah.
But eventually, you can't do this forever.
Well,
you know, you're going to rotate home.
Yeah. Well, you know, today, I told you about that reunion I went to just like last week. And these are all guys, a lot of guys were with me. And so we talk about things that, you know, I was talking to this one guy, and his name's Terry Tillery. And he was, I said to him, Terry, I got a quick question. This is my mind. I mean, so all these years.
Wait, Terry Tillery?
Yeah.
His parents should have named him Art.
Art. When he said Tillery, I was thinking
should have named him
right
Art.
away.
Yeah, that was his name.
Art Tillery.
But I said to him, hey, Terry, because he got there the same time I got to Vietnam. So we were together for a while. So I said, Terry, did this really happen? I told him an incident, you know. He goes, yep, John, it did happen, you know. So, I mean, it was nice to talk to you guys and just to refresh your memory that, yeah, it did happen.
I mean, some of your recollection of it may be different from someone else's recollection of it.
That's exactly right.
You know, and the more you think about it, the more your mind plays games on you, and you may skew your own facts.
Yeah, we differed on it. You know, we were supposed to hit this gook who was in a tree, you know, and we were supposed to bring up the M79, the blooper type. And he said, I got him. I said, oh, I thought I got him. You know?
Now, eventually you find out Vietnam is coming to an end for you. And was there a feeling like, just, I got to make it a couple more days. I got to make it a couple more days when you knew the end was coming? Or did they take you out of the heavy action?
No, in November of 68, I got my R&R. I waited to get R&R. I wanted to go to Australia. So I had enough of the slant ice. I wanted to go back to the round eye girls, you know. So we had a blast over there, and I had this. I got this. I got too wrapped up in one of these women over there, and she was writing me these letters, for like 6 months afterwards, thinking I was going to go back. But yeah, when I came back and they put me right back out with my unit again in the bush, and I said, man, was I depressed, I mean, I just got, weird whiskey a go-go, dancing, having a good old time, Yeah. And then I'm back out there again, And in the meantime, I'm thinking that she's in love with me, But,
She was looking for a meal ticket back home.
That's all.
exactly.
That's all. That's what I called my mom when I got to Okinawa. She said, Johnny, that's what she wants. She wants to come back to New America,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So you finally step on that transport back home. Joy, was it sadness because you're leaving people behind? What was that like?
Well, it was sad they were leaving some guys behind that I knew would do real well. They had more time to do it, to be there. But it was really joy to know you get. Now, you didn't realize, you didn't feel it until you really got to Okinawa, Like,
Had to be a sense of relief too.
yeah, well, big relief. But you were, any minute, you were so afraid that they were going to hit this plane, going out, But I made it back to Okinawa.
Now, while you were over in country, did you hear of any of the issues going on at home with the protesters, or was that kept from you?
They did have the Stars and Stripes, and
But Stars and Stripe was trying to keep your hearts and minds.
yeah, I don't recall, we didn't talk about it much. We didn't talk about it much, and I don't recall hearing much about it. And it was probably a good thing because it would have made me more sour,
Right.
with what
Well,
we were
that's
doing.
what I was going to say. When you came back, was it a hero's welcome?
No,
Or
no.
you were up against
You step
the
off
hippies?
you step off the plane.
I
What?
stepped off the plane in Newark.
Yeah.
And the plane in Newark, even back then, we had to circle around for a while because they couldn't come in land. It was crowded. So, and there was a lot of turbulence. So, like, I don't know, for an hour, we did up and down turbulence, So I get off the plane, my whole family's waiting for me to go. First thing my mom says, Johnny, you're yellow. I said, well, Mom, I was up in that plane like a roller coaster for an hour.
Get off the plane, you puke instead
Yeah.
of kissing the ground.
Yeah, I didn't puke, but I was close to it.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, they greeted me. There was my whole family. That was beautiful. It was such a nice
I'm sure
thing to
that's
see.
something you'll never forget.
Never forget. My little brother, 2 years old, was there. It was so nice. But really, what it started was when I'd go out somewhere.
Wait, you had a 2-year-old brother?
I was going to say that's probably the first time you met him when you landed.
No,
Oops.
let me see. No, I was I knew him before because I was home and leave.
Yeah.
I was home. Yeah. So, but anyway, I would go places, and I wanted to talk about what I did, what was going on, Nobody wanted to hear. So I met my wife in January of '69, and she was always been interested in what I did, So I had her to share my thoughts and my feelings, and it worked out pretty good. But I went to Middlesex County College, and I was in the history class there. And this teacher with the long hair, and he had the bell bottoms, and they really said, he's the head of this Democratic Society here, So I said, okay. So now he's telling all these kids, they're like 17 years old, 18 years old. I'm like already 21 now, right? He's telling all these kids that how bad our country is. Burn your draft cards. Refuse to go into the service. He goes, Russia is this and Russia is that. And the guy next to me was in the Navy, and he says to me, John, you just got back in Vietnam. Do you believe what this guy's saying here? I said, yeah. That just pissed me off. I went up to the front of the classroom. I put my finger in his face, and I told him, I said, this is not right. These kids are all, I was watching these kids are going, like that, I said, these kids are all agreeing with what you're saying. It's not right. What I did for my country, everybody should be obligated to go to service, whether it's right or wrong. Our country calls us, you got to go. So he called me out into the hall, and he apologized for saying that. He told me he would promise never to say it again, and he didn't. And
So you changed somebody's mind. Your suffering changed somebody's mind.
yeah.
And that's what it's there for.
Right. And I got a good grade. I don't think I was doing good in that class, but I got a good grade.
It's a shame that, during that war, and I don't think it's happened since Vietnam, not to my knowledge, not on a grand scale like it did in Vietnam, where soldiers coming back from battle step off the plane into another war that happens at home.
Well, I mean, soldiers would come back from Vietnam and they were being spit on.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I have something. Not everybody got spit on. I mean, there's stories about that out there. But some did. Yeah, some did, but not everybody did. But I think that the worst thing was, all these demonstrations going on. I get out of class and I walk into the courtyard. Every corner there was a demonstration against Vietnam.
Yeah.
All these students. And how's a guy feel that just got done serving his country?
I mean, I'm sure you were filled with like post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
You and you were probably just about to snap at that point.
Yeah.
And to see these people fighting, you being the proud American and fighting for your country.
Yeah.
Coming home being an honored, military veteran at this point.
Yeah.
That's gasoline on the fire.
And these people are just stoking you right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the story I heard is I used to work with a guy who was he was in Vietnam before we were in Vietnam. All his mail got routed through Texas. His mother thought he was in Texas, but he's got pictures of himself in Vietnam. And so he was there when the war officially started. When he came home, there was a woman who spit on him. And he told me this once because I got real close to this guy. She spit on him, and he punched her right in the nose, like dead square in the nose.
Justified.
Yeah, absolutely.
Justified.
Absolutely.
It would be justified homicide for me anyway.
Yeah.
So that stress, that post-traumatic stress that you felt, you were just a kid.
I still feel it.
How do you deal? How do you cope? Because the Suffering Podcast is all about giving people tools on how to deal with certain events in their life and how you dealt with it personally. How did you deal with it?
Well, I was a workaholic, and I was my own business for 36 years. So I was so busy working. I'd work a lot of hours, maybe like 16 sometimes hours a day, 12 hours a day. I was a restaurant business, and I was so busy doing all that I didn't get to think about that stuff. It was a relief for me.
That's the same thing Bob Gibson said.
Yeah.
We, as Bob Gibson, World War II veteran of D-Day, Battle of the Bulge, what did you do? How did you get through it when you got back stateside? And he said the same thing. He goes, you got to get to work.
Yeah.
You got to get to work.
That's right.
An idle mind is the devil's playground.
Where him and I, when we had our events, we couldn't work.
Yeah.
It's almost counterintuitive to what the people who came before us said to get through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to keep yourself busy. I've been retired for 6 years now, and I'm working more now retired than I was when I was working because I have to keep busy.
Right.
If I have too much downtime, if I have a day off coming up, I get like anxiety thinking about the day off. I'm like, I have to do something.
The same way to this day. I don't want to get laid up for a month or 2 months or I'll deal with what I got rather than telling me I got to not do anything for a month. It's crazy.
Lay in bed for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You look like you spent a good portion of your life taking care of your body. You're in great shape. You've survived what some would say the most unpopular war in American history, doing what you had to do, serving your country, doing your duty with honor. And my hat's off to you because, a lesser man, I think, might have broke when they came home and got done fighting one more and had to fight another.
Well, I know people that turned to alcoholics, big-time alcoholics.
There was a lot of suicide after that.
A lot of suicide, alcoholics, And I have a good friend that came back, got Agent Orange, good friend. And he asked me to be in his wedding when we got back, and he used to come to my restaurant and talk to me all the time. One day I call up, and I says, can I talk to Artie? Artie's not here anymore. I said, what do you mean he's not here? He died. I said, well, he died from what? He said, complications of Agent Orange. So, I mean, it's shocking, when you find that stuff, But I, like I said, I keep myself busy, and I exercise a lot, and I made myself a little man cave, and
a little safe place.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, what I like to call it is the bat cave. To get away from wives.
That's right. That's right. That helped me a lot.
I'm sorry, hon. I'm so sorry.
I mean,
John's lovely wife is sitting out there in the
I know you've seen a lot of stuff, and I'm sure you relive it all the time. Like you said, you still think about it. Is there one certain thing that you think about like all the time? One certain thing from Vietnam that really sticks with you?
Yeah. We were on patrol, and the guy in front of me, machine gunner, right? And I tell you, the jungle's so thick, you can look at that picture, you see it. And out of nowhere, a bamboo viper just swung down and bit the guy in the arm. And they tell you, two-stepper, man. Take 2 steps, you're dead. So he hit the ground, and I was first there, right behind him. So I put a tourniquet on it just above his elbow, and I called the corpsman up. Corpsman put a couple of cuts in there, and he squeezed out as much, I guess, the poison he could. But this guy started flopping like a fish.
Yeah.
right there, in front of me. And he's looking at me in the face, like eyes wide open,
Like a help me look.
Yeah, I was so, to this day, I feel bad about it because it happened right in front of me. Now, I couldn't have done anything about it because didn't see it till it came down last minute, But I did kill the snake with a machete afterwards. But I tried to get him, we thought, the corpsman says he's dead. All right, so we brought up a body bag, put him in a body bag. And I felt so bad. So I went to the landing zone where the chopper was going to come in to medevac him out. And there was a lot of bamboo trees. So you couldn't have him come in, and it was on the side of it. We were always on the side of freaking hills. Yeah. And you couldn't get him out because the bamboo stumps were there. But I tried like heck, 4 or 5 times to try to get him into the chopper would come down. The C-46s, the long ones, with the back drop down like that. Yeah. And it would come in, and we'd be hoovering, and we tried to throw the body in, missed. Hoovering, throw the body in, couldn't get him. Finally, the 4th time, we got him in there. And for all those years, I felt so bad about that. I still feel bad about it. I wish I could have killed that snake first. But I felt so bad about my buddy. I just laying there with his eyes, would die with his eyes open, they said. So I go to a reunion last year, because these have these reunions every year. This guy he did well, and he invites all the guys up from Charlie Company. And we have a great time. But anyway, we're talking about this incident, and I said, did anybody remember the guy that was hit by a snake? Oh, I was there. Well, you were? I said, I was right behind him. He goes, no, I was behind you. And then the guy says, oh, I was in front of you when it happened, So we all got, holy moly. And then we have a historian of our Charlie Company. He comes over, he goes, no, John. He went to the Da Nang airport, and they zipped open the bag, and he was alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All these years I thought he died.
He shows up at the reunion. No, it was me in the bag. It was me in the bag.
Yeah, no. But he wasn't there because he died, later.
So if you had your advice of what you've gone through, both in the war, after the war, and dealing with the stress of war, if you were to speak to a younger person ready to go into the service, ready to go into war, what do you think is some apt advice that you could give them?
It depends what kind of guy he is. I mean, if he's motivated about our country, he's motivated about being gung-ho, yeah, I mean, go for it, You want to be a Marine, you want to be recon, you want to be a Navy SEAL, go for it, it's personal pride, So I would say that, and I would say that if your country says they need you, and you're an American citizen, I mean, it's our duty.
Correct.
That's what I'd say.
I agree.
100%.
Is there anything that you want to throw out there for a plug? I know you belong to the VFW in Glen Gardner. They've been so good to us. We've been down there. They're a wonderful bunch of people. Anything you want to plug?
I just think that the Glen Gardner in VFW in Glen Gardner is probably the best post around. Run the best. Yeah. And
Jay's wonderful.
Jay's doing a great job, and he's got good people on the board. And I happen to be the chaplain there, so.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
And they all kid me about being father, But hey, somebody had to do it, so I raised my hand,
You're like Father Mulcahy of the VFW in Glen Gardner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't volunteer to be a tunnel rat, but you volunteer to be a chaplain.
Well,
less bullets flying at your head.
Yeah. So no, I would plug the VFW, doing a great job. They have a lot of good functions going on. It's one of the most in New Jersey. I think it's one of the best.
Oh, we do.
Well, I tell you, we had a great time when we were down there that night, though.
Yeah, they treated
us like gold.
Yeah,
really did.
So we're coming to this. We're coming to the end of this thing here, and you've been through things that I can't imagine. You fought in one of the only unpopular wars in the United States history. You've seen a lot of suffering on many different levels. What do you think it's taught you?
What I think? What?
What do you think this suffering has taught you?
It's taught me. So let me be thankful for my life, thankful that I'm here, thankful for my family, thankful that I was able to have successful business, and thankful that I have 2 great grandsons and my daughter. I'm very thankful for all that.
Do you think your experience in the Marine Corps and in Vietnam gave you the work ethic to run your business?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was like, everybody could say, I could tell you were in the Marines, They'd say, the way you run this place, you know.
Yeah. All your cooks had to have their shoes polished, mirror.
Yeah, we all wore uniforms, you know, and you wore black shoes and you wore the white aprons in the back, you know. I'll tell you a quick story. I had this one guy was cooking back then. We were busy. I mean, we'd have a 45-minute wait almost every night of the week. And after a while, people somehow, they get cocky with you when they know you need them that bad. So I'd go back and I'd say, hey, I says, where's the food? I need the food. Get it, come a little faster, you know. So he took a big knife and he starts pounding. He says, he'll get it when I'm done. So what I do, I went over, I got a bigger knife. And I came back and I said, I want it now. And I'm right in his face. And you know what? He stopped and he got busy again.
Yeah, there's a lot of value to military service. It teaches you a lot of life lessons that I don't think you can learn anywhere else.
No, you can't learn that in college.
No. John, thank you so much for coming in here today. This has been amazing. And
again, Kev, this is an episode for us.
Yes, this is another one for us. This is another one for us. We need to get somebody from Korea in here.
That'd be nice.
Because we get somebody from Korea in here, we're going to put together a whole military series.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk afterwards.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds great.
John, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. As always, we talk about what we learned. Reality hits hard, just like a hammer. November 10th should be a national holiday.
That's right. But you know, they do have a national holiday for Vietnam veterans now.
Yes, but I'm talking November 10th, specifically for the Marine Corps.
They should.
Duty is the highest honor. Skinny dipping in Vietnam might not have been the best idea in the world. One war is enough for anybody to fight, but most importantly, be thankful. That's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Follow Mike on Instagram at Mike_Failace. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. Follow the Suffering Podcast at the Suffering Podcast, and we're going to see you on the next episode.